Since 2002, Prince William Conservation Alliance has been trying to protect and draw attention to some of these places worth preserving, which is our theme tonight. And I just want to share my screen for a quick minute and show you a few things that have happened. And let's make sure I can do it okay. Look at that, no more troubles tonight, eh? One of the things that we are really proud of is our work to identify more than 40 miles of roads through our Rural Crescent as Virginia Scenic Byways. And we did this, it took about 2 years to do it. And I would like to say that we had a partnership and worked with then Supervisor Maureen Cadigan, whose aide, Chief of Staff Jane Beyer, was really instrumental in helping this happen. But today we have over 40 miles of Virginia Scenic Byways, which is really something to brag about. We also have a protected rural area, and we still have it right now. And over the years, Prince William Conservation Alliance has certainly been out in front trying to educate people about the value of the rural area and what it means countywide. Over at Silver Lake, when we definitely supported partnering with a nonprofit for Silver Lake, which did not occur. But after that, we continued on trying to improve the habitat and draw attention towards what a great place it was. And it's a huge park that is about 230 acres with a lake that's 23 acres. It's a great fishing spot, and we see people fishing there all the time. This was a partnership with the Parks Department and Supervisor Canlin, and we planted trees all over the area. Fabulous activity. Dove's Landing, we discovered and realized no one was aware that the county had this great piece of property that's about 225 acres with 1 mile of shoreline on the Occoquan River. So we worked to draw community attention towards this fabulous natural area, and then worked with then Supervisor Marty Noe to make it a public park, which it is right now. And it is now also about 70 acres bigger, thanks to a contribution from proffer funds for parks that Supervisor Noe made at the end of his term. Perhaps our biggest, or the thing that we're very most proud of, is the acquisition of Merrimac Farm Wildlife Management Area. And this is a picture of the very small group that worked together to make it happen. We set up a partnership, or established a partnership, with the Marine Corps base Quantico and the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, purchased the property, and it was deeded to the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries. The Marine Corps base Quantico has a permanent restrictive easement on the property. Nothing will ever happen to it. And we watching and education activities over at Merrimac Farm and share some of the upkeep on the site. And it is a hugely important site. I don't know how many of you have been out there to see the bluebells with us, but it is just a really stunning sight. My favorite way of describing it is that it's like walking through Oz. And that's because it's a high quality property that connects to Quantico on two sides, to the back end, their training area buffer, and the Cedar Run Wetlands Bank on the third side. So it acts as a connector piece, which benefits the habitat conditions of all three areas. So these are there. These are a few things that Prince William Conservation Alliance has been working on since we formed in 2002. And we think that thanks to you, the efforts that we've made to achieve these results have made a difference in Prince William County, and we see lots of hope for the future. Now we're going to hear some stories from other people who are going to highlight other special places in Prince William. Most of these places have been saved. Some still have ongoing issues, and we need to be able to protect everything over time. One of my favorite expressions is, once you lose a site to residential development or whatever, it's gone. But when you save something, you still probably are going to have to save it over and over again. So it's really important that we appreciate what we have and are aware of the importance of speaking out and standing up for natural areas and cultural resources. First, we're going to hear from Joyce Hudson, who is a co-chair of the Alliance to Save Carver Road. She's a property owner in the settlement and a recent community activist. She has a BS in civil engineering from Howard University, and she worked as an environmental engineer with the US EPA before she retired. And we're delighted to have you here, Joyce. Can you unmute and say hey?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Good evening, and let me go ahead and share. Make sure I've got there. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. All right, let's get going. Again, I represent the Alliance to Save Carver Road. And that was a group that was formed in opposition to the Dominion energy power lines that were proposed along Carver Road. And now this group has turned into a voice for the settlement, which encompasses Carver Road. And the voice is to address the county's plan for development in the settlement. So I'd like to start by saying thank you to the Conservation Alliance for all their support and for recognizing the settlement as a place worth protecting. We're committed to preserving our community and its history. And to give you an idea of where we are, the settlement is located in Gainesville along 29 here, Carver Road, and you can't see it, but Old Carolina is kind of right there. So it's this, this area. And this map just kind of points out, I don't know if you can see it, but there are some historic sites that are present in the settlement. So what is the settlement? So here's a little background. It's very unique. It's one of the areas where freed slaves were allowed to buy land and settle immediately after emancipation. And its descendants still live there today. So the settlement became a self-sustaining community with Mount Pleasant Church, which is this photo of it here. And at the church is really the heartbeat and the center of the community. It also had a Black-owned restaurant called Pleasant Pines, and it used to be in this building here. There was also a school for Blacks that is called, it's the former McCrae School, and it's right up on this hill. It's right on 29 there in that building. And there's also a dance hall, or was a dance hall. It was called the Shady Inn, and it's right here. Currently, it's not being used, but that's where it's rumored that Duke Ellington performed there, among other folks. And then some of its residents, like I said, are direct descendants of freed slaves. So this is a picture of Aunt Dolly. We call her Aunt Dolly, and her nephew, Nathan Grayson, who is the co-chair of our group. And they are direct descendants of, again, the freed slave. Her name was Lavinia Blackburn Johnson. And I just wanted to show some photos just to give you an idea of what Carver Road looks like. Very peaceful, tranquil, lots of treed lots, lots of open space. This is what we love about our community. If you notice, there's some homes back off of the road there. Old Carolina Road also, this is where my property is, but this is shows you what that looks like. The homes are a little closer together than on Carver. But at the north end of Old Carolina is the town of Haymarket. And at the southern end, Old Carolina ends right there at 29, which is near Wegmans. So that gives you an idea. But we just love our semi-rural nature of our community. And then I mentioned Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. This was a church that was founded again by freed slaves back in 1877. This property was purchased for $10. Can you imagine? You see the original structure here. The one down below it is after they did an expansion. And then this headstone, wanted to show, is the oldest headstone in the cemetery behind the church. It's Mr. John Perry, and he was born in 1836 and died in 1896. So most likely a slave, a freed slave. And the church was, unfortunately, the victim of arson in 2012. But it's currently rebuilding, and it's receiving donations through a GoFundMe. So I just wanted to list that there. So this is a map. Again, I wanted to show you sort of what the area looks like. Last year, Mount Pleasant, which is right there, Mount Pleasant Baptist Church was designated a historic site at the state level. And plans are really in the works to nominate it at the national level. The settlement itself, the community, is a county level historic site. And then there's the Shady Inn Dance Hall would be right there. And then there's a home, Flora Dean's home. We're looking to have those designated as well. And it's really ironic because the struggle with the Dominion power lines brought attention to this community, and it really allowed us to step up the efforts to have these sites designated as historic. So sometimes there's good out of the bad. And just wanted to kind of tell you what's going on right now. The county is in the midst of updating its comp plan, which looks at the next 20 years. Right after the power line struggle, the settlement became the focus of this Route 29 small area plan in their planning process. So the current comp plan, which is currently in place, allows for high density townhouses, apartments in the settlement, as well as 4-lane roads everywhere throughout. So realizing that that really wasn't appropriate, the county drafted this small area plan for Route 29. And basically the plan, the settlement is probably about 90% of the land area for this plan. So this new plan, the draft small area plan, did include road widening still and some high density, although not as much as before. And then, so we focused the efforts of the Alliance on the small area plan to try to protect what we had fought so hard to save from those power lines. And the county, I'm happy to say, has reluctantly agreed to decrease the housing density and to remove all of the road widening. And Old Carolina Road was proposed to look like this. And that was the first draft of the small area plan. So we were able to sort of dial that back, and it is now proposed as a two-lane road. So we're hoping that the plan is approved. It's up for approval in front of the board, and that meeting, or I guess it's a hearing, is scheduled for June 15th. So that's coming up. But there is some opposition. There are a number of people who bought land back when Disney was coming to Gainesville in hopes of developing and selling their land. And so they're just waiting. And they formed an opposition to the small area plan. So we'll see where it is, where that goes. The residents, though, they want to preserve the settlement, recognize its history, and pass the land down to our next generation. So we're actively, I'll just mention, actively supporting Historic Thoroughfare. It's a sister community, again, of freed slaves and Native Americans that you'll hear about later. Delaney Washington will tell you about that. But we consider ourselves, the settlement and Thoroughfare, as one big family, because many are related, and both are, again, freed slave communities. So thanks for listening, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Joyce. Nobody has any questions or comments? That was really interesting, and it's good to know, especially right before a public hearing date.
I've got a question. Oh,
yeah, I just wanted to say it's really good to refer, the small area plan, and retool that back to our historic communities there and the nature of the communities, which is a fundamental quality of life for the residents, long-term residents there. I'm so glad to see that they rolled back on that small area plan concept. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, it took a lot of convincing and work.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt for people to go to the hearing and re-emphasize that. I think it would be a nice thing.
I agree. And in the meantime, we can all write emails too. So thank you very much, Joyce. Next, we're gonna
There's a couple more
travel
questions.
over to the Mid-County area. Oh, there is a question in the chat. Oh, thank you. Which is, what is a historical relationship between Carver Road and Leopold? Is that Leopold's Preserve? Sunny? I'm guessing yes. So Joyce, is there a connection?
I think Joyce just was
got knocked
disconnected.
off?
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh my, what a time. I'll tell you, I'm nothing. Oh, here she's back. So Joyce, welcome back. Sunny wants to know if there's any connection between Leopold's Preserve and Carver Road.
That area, I'm not as familiar, but I understand that there is a connection. I think that's where one of the original schools was located. I forgot the name of the school, but I think that the Black-only school before McCrae was located right there at Leopold's Preserve where they've kind of marked it, but I'm not I'm not as familiar with it as some of the others.
Right. Do you have info to share, Sonny? I don't see where you are. I'm guessing that means no.
I'm at the tiki bar. No.
Oh, you are, eh? But we'll be right over.
Oh, there it is.
So do you have anything you want to add? You are at the tiki bar.
He's muted again.
Okay, thank you so much, Joyce.
Sure. Thank you, everyone.
Huh? Now we're going to travel to the Mid-County area with Martin Jeter, who is a founding president of Mid-County Civic Association, which was formed in 2005. And I got to tell you, Martin's done a great job of getting this group off the ground. His meetings now are very well attended, and the information is presented in a way that is easy to understand and includes everyone. He's also into researching and writing about history in Prince Williams, and check the Prince William Times for some of his articles. So with that, Martin, you're on. But you should
Okay,
unmute.
thanks, Kim. Let me share my screen here real quick.
And Martin, give us a heads up when you would like the questions answered.
Okay, sure will. Thanks again, Kim, and thanks to Prince William Conservation Alliance for inviting me tonight. I'm honored to be included with the stellar lineup you have tonight, and the music. The musical interlude was great. I appreciate all that. So just a great program. The special place that I'm going to talk about is the Davis Ford Park. And this is a overhead shot, as you can see here. It gives you an approximate location for folks that aren't familiar. This is Davis Ford Road here. This is Occoquan River. Where Davis Ford crosses the river is a little farther up this way. This is River Forest Drive, and this is the outline of the park. It was a sewage treatment facility for about over 50 years. It's 57 acres. This is Crooked Creek that empties into the Occoquan Reservoir down here. This is a little off outside the boundaries of what will be the park, but it is visible from the park. And this is all steep sloped areas all through this area of the landmass. And there's a lot of environmental features through here. As you can see, the blue lines here, the streams and so forth. This shot shows you the same area. You can see the tree cover here. It's very, there's some old growth trees. We'll see a lot more of that from the ground level. This is the old containment pond here. I'm losing my cursor when I go down here, but you can see the cleared area there is where the containment pond was for the sewage treatment plant. The treatment plant that was here is what they call old technology, and even to use the word technology is a bit of a stretch, because as we'll find out in the quiz, it was not very sophisticated at all. And for that reason, the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality in Virginia, and the EPA decided that this needed to be, especially since it was so close to the Occoquan Reservoir, this needed to be fixed. The problem needed to be taken care of. So there was a choice the Service Authority had, and the Service Authority is the people that ran the sewage treatment plant. They could either close the plant down and pump the sewage somewhere else, or improve the plant so it was more modern technology and less of a burden on the environment. So they chose the first option, to pump the sewage away. And this is a shot as you enter the park from Davis Ford Road. This is some of the infrastructure for the pumping station. This is a cell tower that's leased to a third party, and that will remain, as will this infrastructure. This is the pumping station that exists to pump the sewage to a modern treatment plant and away from this parcel. But since the parcel was going to be vacated by the Service Authority, no longer needed, then they wanted to do something with it, and so it was decided that the Board of County Supervisors would take over the property. There's a system that the Board of County Supervisors uses, the county uses, and the Service Authority uses. Between the two of them, a system of credits, and the credits came into play, and the board, it was decided that the Board of County Supervisors would get this parcel. That was decided. This whole process started in 2005, so it's been going on for over 15 years. And it will finally be turned over to the Board of County Supervisors later this month, just in actually in less than a week. So that was all done there. So time for the first quiz. And this quiz is on what technology do you think was used for the old sewage treatment plant? In other words, what did they use to treat the sewage? And here's the questions you see. Semi-treated sewage was sprayed into the woods. The fully treated sewage was piped into the creek leading into the Aquan Reservoir after treatment. They used a huge septic field like a home may have, or the sewage was made into fertilizer and trucked away. So you have a few seconds here to make your choices and submit.
Once I see that the voting is kind of lulled, I'll launch the results.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Well, the majority is wrong, and the first answer is correct. The semi-treated sewage was actually, they have, and we'll see where where it was sprayed into the woods in a second. But they had spray heads like you would have, similar to what you use in lawn sprinklers. And so the sewage was treated in the containment pond to a certain level, and then it was sprayed out into the woods. So, okay, so this is just some slides here real quick of how beautiful this property actually is, and some of the features on this property. Like I said, it has old growth trees, it's steep slopes, there's a stream just behind. The grassy areas you see here and in other parts of the slides I'm going to show you are areas where the spray fields existed. And in the process of taking up the old infrastructure, the piping and the spray heads and so forth, they planted this grass to hold the ground until the normal forest cover could take over. So this is an example of some of the old trees that are in this forest area. Here's another example, American Beech, just some really beautiful old trees, and you can understand how healthy they are because they were fertilized on a regular basis. Now, if the parcel was to be made into a passive use parcel, there would be a trail system throughout the area to show the features of the parcel. And part of that is already constructed because the Surface Authority had paths made through the woods in order to maintain and repair their spray fields, and also a perimeter path to check the perimeter of the property. So this is one example of the paths that already exist. And this is another example of the paths that are there. So it wouldn't take a lot of effort to connect these paths and have a wonderful trail through this whole park area. Now I have a couple of short videos here. I
wait,
apologize.
Martin,
Yes.
before you move on, Kathy Hinman wants to know when they stopped spraying.
When they stop spraying?
Yep.
I don't know the exact date. It was a number of years ago, and they had to go through, I think I know where the question's going. They have to go through a long remediation process where the area was allowed to lay fallow. And keep in mind, this wasn't raw sewage that was being sprayed. This was treated effluent. So it was not, it was not a health hazard from when they sprayed this. It was just not environmentally a great thing to do because this is so close to the aquan and so forth. But there was a whole process that the DEQ required to decommission this plant and allow the public to gain access to it. Okay, so as I said, these videos aren't perfect. They have to be resized to be transferred over AOL, but I'll just go ahead and show these, give you an idea of another area of the property. little wobbly there first, but just to give you an idea of how beautiful this property is. As I said, these grassy areas will go back to just forest cover, leaves and so forth eventually once a few seasons go by, but right now they're really pretty and grassy. Just to give you an idea of the size of the trees on this parcel, how beautiful this is. If you turn the sound up, you can hear the cicadas and the birds in the background. And just a really pretty place. And the next video is of a stone foundation that exists on the property. And we're not sure what this was as of yet. We need to study this some more. It was either a whole stone building or a stone foundation of a building. And I'll just stop this real quick. This stone foundation was some kind of facility there, whether it was a farm or whatever. So we need to research that a little bit more. And this is what used to be the containment pond area that has been filled in, and you can hear cars on Davis Ford Road. This is right next to Davis Ford Road. This has all been filled in, and it's just a big field now. And like I said, this is paralleling Davis Ford Road. The trees on the opposite side are along Davis Ford Road, and just a big field area. And this next shot is the superintendent of the park. And this guy came to greet me when I was out there the other day. So he is the new superintendent. So time for the second quiz. Ashley, if you wouldn't mind.
And which one is that?
Okay,
What was proposed for?
Yeah, this is in the mid-2000s what was proposed for this site. In other words, what did they want to build on this site? What was proposed? A school, townhouses, a hog farm, or an asphalt plant?
Again, I'll give everyone a second to select their choice, and once I see the results kind of lulling, I'll launch the results.
Thank you. Okay, looks like a lot of people in the meeting know the history of this to some extent. Yes, a middle school was proposed, elementary school, I'm sorry, was proposed for this site back in 2005. Hog farm and asphalt plant. It's interesting that some people said that, but no, that's not right. So I only have a few more minutes, a few more seconds here, but in the future, what's going to happen in the future on this parcel is a committee was formed by the county a number of years ago that decided that passive recreation would be the best and highest use for this parcel. And I think we can all see why they would say that. Supervisor Bodie and the Parks Department head Seth Handler Voss have recently decided that they want to get some community input again to try to see where people are now. This previous committee was a number of years ago. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was between 2005 and probably 2010. So they want to get some community input and form a master plan before they can actually let the public start using this park. And funding is also an issue. There's no funding in the CIP, the capital improvement plan this year for this park, for this next fiscal year, I should say. Seth has indicated that Parks Department would need about $250,000 to open this park to the public as a bare minimum. As shown previously, we think that the trail system could be put together without a lot more work, since a lot of it already exists there. And there is a gravel parking area already on the property, which could hold, I think I counted the other day, 15 to 20 cars at one time. It seems like we could get this going without a lot more money. So just for your information, we are going to be advocating and we have been advocating. MIDCO's been involved in this since 2005, and we have been advocating to get this open. And Kim's been a big help too. Kim Hosen and Prince William Conservation Alliance, as they have been in almost every other endeavor we've taken on. So now's the time for the third quiz, actually the third and last quiz. And this is, what would you like to see on this site? If you were in charge, what would you put on this site? No judging. We're not going to do any judging on this. Feel free.
Okay, looks like we're about there. I'll launch the All
right. Very good. 100% hiking trails and paths from Brett. Okay, very, very good. Okay, so
We might publish, we're going to have to publish that.
sounds good. Sounds good. So I'll stop sharing here, and any questions anybody has, be happy to answer.
Comments? Jack, you're on
Yeah.
mute.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I, as chairman of the Service Authority Board of Directors, I did sign the deed papers over just this past week. And Ann Wheeler has to sign them as well. So, and I signed the plat map a week or so or before that. So all that paperwork is being processed right now, so we can have a clean transfer on the 15th of June.
Very good and good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
Kim, if I could add one thing, as my former supervisors that appointed me, Michael May and Ruth Anderson, know, I've been advocating for a long time for the park to be connected with Priest Mill, which is back on Crooked Creek, one of the original mills that were in Prince William County. And there is still a race there and remnants of what the mill is. So certainly connecting that to the park would be a great way of adding history to the whole site.
Do you mean physically connecting?
Certainly you'd need to deal with another pathway coming off the back side of that to get up to Priest Mill.
Okay.
Yeah, Kim, Priest Mill is on Crooked Creek. It's a little less than a mile from this property. So if a trail could be established, a lot of that is private property, but if a trail could be established between the park and Priest Mill, I have pictures that I could send anybody that wants to see them. I have pictures taken of the ruins of the mill. It's recognizable as a mill still. The ruins are recognizable. So as Kim says, that would be a great opportunity. And my dream is to someday have a trail all the way up Crooked Creek to near where McCord is, and have that trail connect to the one that goes to Occoquan. But that's kind of a dream that I may not see in my lifetime. But
that would be a nice trail system and hiking experience if that could be done. I totally agree. And I just, by the way, wanted to thank Mike May. He was supervisor when we actually, the agreement was reached that the board should use its credits to make it a park. I want to give Mike that, just voice that credit to Mike for doing that. Thank you.
yay, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks for adding that, Kim. Anybody else? Or we're going to move on and keep the pace up. Next, we're going to hear from Ruth Anderson. Ruth represented the Occoquan District on the Board of Supervisors from 2016 to 2020. When she was there, one of her priorities was to increase park space, and she became more passionate about this goal after she discovered that the Occoquan District has the least parkland of any magisterial district in Prince William County, which is true and has been true for years and years. So we all need to think about when we're buying parks, where do we need them? And we certainly need them in the areas that have more development, and we need to take advantage of opportunities to buy new parkland while we still have some of those opportunities. I'm sorry, I could go off on a big rant about this. So Ruth, thank you for being with us. And I think that you want to introduce yourself. We're going to play a tape, right?
Yes.
Okay,
The Board of Supervisors plans to unpave an unused commuter parking lot and turn it into park space. So the Harbor Drive Wellness Park that you're seeing right here will include universal exercise equipment usable by both seniors and those with disabilities, also a pollinator garden and open space for parks programming. The $1.2 million park will be completed with $700,000 of county funds and also grants. Kaiser Permanente awarded the county an additional $50,000 to complete the design.
We drove around the entire district looking for possibilities for new park spaces because our district has the least amount of public park space of all 7 districts in Prince William County.
So after 3 years of planning, the county anticipates to start working this fall.
All right, Ashley's going to share my PowerPoint. And while she is putting that up, that was me in the video. I just haven't been to a beauty shop in about 16 months. In my quest to find more park space for the Occoquan district, especially the east end of the Occoquan district, I did go on a, looking at maps and everything, but also drove around the entire district just with a passion to try to find more space for parks. And right there by Tackett's Mill, we found this old commuter lot that just seemed to be sitting there, 2.5 acres, and it wasn't being used. And it was used prior to the widening of Minnieville Road, but it had been vacant and just growing weeds for a long time, and used for not so good things over the years too. So we made it our business in my office to see if we couldn't turn this into park space. And there were some obstacles for sure. First of all, it was VDOT property, state-owned property. And so we had to work that out with VDOT. Then there's Dominion power lines there. So that was an obstacle that had to be worked out. And certainly the Dominion power lines there made it really unusable for other kinds of development. And then the Service Authority owned about 1/2 acre of the 2.5 acres. And so we worked, negotiated with the Service Authority, and Dr. Jack probably knows more about this than I even do, but I think credits were involved in this too. And so finally that 1/2 acre was conveyed over to the county. And then of course, funding is always an issue. So when I got called up to Kaiser Permanente in the north of us in Fairfax to look at their medical center up there, because the one on Minnieville was going to look just like it. When I sat in that conference room, they were telling me how interested they were in community work. And so I immediately said, well, how would you like to help us start a park? And as it turns out, they became very interested, Kaiser Permanente, and everything worked out, and they eventually helped. So far, it's a couple $100,000, but we do think it's even going to be more in the future as time goes on. But they gave us the initial $25,000 to plan the park, and also hired somebody for us to help plan it. And then you saw on the notes there that we changed it to parks and open space. And this slide just took me a minute to talk about, but actually it was years to get through all of those obstacles. Next slide. This is the plan. And this plan came together through several community meetings. What I had in my head, what I really thought everybody was going to want that lived in that area, was a big community garden. And when I started hearing opposition to it, I just couldn't believe it, because so many people want to garden, but they don't have the fenced property, or they don't have property by their townhouses and so on. But the people that lived around this area did not want a community garden. It became very clear after a couple of charrettes. So after many designs, I think 10 total were generated, finally we got down to the design that you see on this slide. And I think it's beautiful. Not anywhere near what I had envisioned at the very beginning, but we're saving a lot of space that was pavement and not being used, just growing weeds. And now it's going to be a beautiful park. Included in the park, that center oval is a programming area. So the Parks Department is going to be having I don't know, yoga or, you know, different programs in that oval space there. But it also includes a pollinator garden. There's going to be some space for meadows, and you also see a children's playground there. Next slide. This is just some of the equipment. It's outdoor fitness equipment and then universal playground equipment. And when this all started, I was told that it was the first public park for Prince William County that was going to install this universal playground equipment, which means it's easy access for people of all ages, but specifically for children with physical disabilities. So I found it just fabulous. And we had a family that lived close by with 2 little children with physical disabilities, and they were just so excited about this park. Also, I was talking to people at the Fellowship House just a few days ago, and they can't wait for this park to be done because the equipment is definitely usable by our seniors. Next slide. This is what it looks like just yesterday on June 4th. I went and took a couple of photos. So action is happening. Originally, this park was projected to open in April of this year. It should open later this year. Slowed down, we can blame the pandemic, but also some complications related to the Dominion power lines, a little glitch there. But I'm guessing we should see this park at least by fall of this year. And there's just one more video. On November 19th, 2020, they did a groundbreaking ceremony. And we're just gonna, to finish my presentation here, we're going to play a portion of that video.
We're challenging our technical skills here.
Oh, you say stand by, here it comes.
That's right, that's right.
We are so excited at Kaiser Permanente to be partnering on the Harbor Drive Wellness Park. At Kaiser Permanente, we believe that total health is important. That is why we are so grateful and honored to be partnering on this new outdoor space for community residents to enjoy the outdoors.
For nearly 2 years, we've worked closely with Prince William County and residents to collaboratively design a space that improves the health of the community. In these turbulent times, today's groundbreaking really reminds us that all together we can build a better future by making total health more accessible.
I want to thank you for braving the elements and coming out to put some shovels in some dirt this morning so we can celebrate the groundbreaking on this new Harbor Drive Wellness Park in partnership with Kaiser Permanente.
At Kaiser Permanente, we're helping people make healthy changes in their neighborhoods because every community deserves a chance to truly thrive. I'm grateful to everyone who played a role in bringing this project to life and recognize the tremendous effort that went into building this partnership.
1, 2, 3!
All right, the total cost of the project, about 1.2 million when everything, all costs included.
And well worth it. It's really great to have a park there and in that area there's nothing. And now there will be something. So thank you so much, Ruth. Anybody have comments or questions? Okay, now we're going to cross back to the other side of the county. We're going back to Gainesville. And Delaney Washington is here to talk about the cemeteries that were recently subject of much discussion at Thoroughfare. Delaney is a pastor of the Oakram Baptist Church in Thoroughfare. It's a church and a town that he was born and raised in. He followed in his father's footsteps. He joined the Navy after high school and then spent later after that years working with and ministering to kids at Youth for Tomorrow in Bristow. Delaney is standing beside and with his brother Frank to preserve their Thoroughfare history and save their ancestral gravestone sites within the community. And Delaney, you are on.
Yep. Can you hear me?
You bet.
Okay, good. Well, first off, I just want to thank you for having me on tonight. I've enjoyed everything so far between the music and the singing and the other presentations. Unfortunately, I don't have a presentation with me tonight. So I would ask everyone to please go to our website. I'm with the Coalition to Save Historic Thoroughfare. I've been the pastor also at Oakram Baptist Church in Thoroughfare for I'm going on 3 years right now. But I was born and raised in Thoroughfare, and I've been a member of the church my entire life. I kind of like to start from the beginning. Thoroughfare is it's a historic area, which is a historic community, which is located about 3 miles outside of Haymarket, right down Route 55. It's before you get to the Plains, before you get to Chapman's Mill. It's right off of Route 55. It's an area that was founded by Native Americans, freed slaves, and enslaved people. It's been in existence, at least for that part, since the early 1800s. I'm a direct descendant of the people who actually founded the area of Thoroughfare. So I'm pleased to say that when I was born and raised in Thoroughfare, I always felt like it was the best place in the world to live. I was always surrounded by my grandparents, my uncles, my cousins, aunts, so much family around. So it's been just been grateful just to be a part of the Thoroughfare and the legacy that was left to me. You know, our legacy is deep, it runs rich, and our blood is deep into the land of Thoroughfare. My great grandparents there, raised up a family, raised up people who were had been enslaved, and they came together as a community, decided that they were going to raise their families there, form a community. It was a strong farming community for a long time. Everybody got along, everybody worked together. It was a thriving community. It's not quite the same there now as it was back then, but there's still my ancestors, we have descendants still living there. My mother still lives there, my brother. I still have cousins that live there also too. So we have a lot of legacy and a lot of history there with Thoroughfare. I just want to say that because of the importance to me of that area. I've always loved Thoroughfare because I always thought it was the best place in the world to live. The church itself for me was just a part of my life. I mean, our house, we lived probably about maybe 200 yards away from the church. So we were constantly at the church. We were raised in the church. The family has very strong beliefs. Our parents taught us a strong work ethic, a belief in a strong faith to have. So all that was passed down to us though from their parents before them. It's again a long history of that. Oakram itself is unique in the word, because whenever I tell anybody about Oakram, they're like, "Are you sure you're not mispronouncing it?" I'm like, "No, it's called Oakram." Okay, but nobody's ever heard of that before. Oakram is basically it's like a fiber that has tar on it and it's bound together. So they were using Oakram. They were using these fibers with this tar to bind together the roof of the original structure of the building for the church. So since they were binding it together, they called it okra. So that also is to me, is probably ironic in the fact that, how the community itself bound itself together also too, to work together, to strive together. They were family. They worked together just to make sure that everybody was going to have, nobody was left out. There was a time when, as they were going along the history, where they weren't allowed to participate in churches that were there or schools. And so they decided that they were going to build their own school because they wanted their children to be educated. The church itself, everybody worked during the week, but on Sundays, everybody came together. It was a central hub, and it still is a central hub for us. My brother, again, is the chairman of the trustee board there. My mother is the mother of the church. So we got a lot going on there. It is a community. I wouldn't say was, but it is a community that was built on faith, a very strong foundation. And it's funny, but as I walk through Thoroughfare, I'm reminded of the people who lived there before me, my great grandparents, my great great grandparents, and how they didn't have much, but they had each other, and they worked hard on the land, and they wanted to have something to pass down to their children. And so for us, it's important for us to keep that legacy going on. We want to take that legacy, pass it down to our children and to their children, and to keep that going on. It's the ties that bind. It's the things that holds families together, communities together. We talk about Thoroughfare. It is a story of America because we're talking about Americans here. The story that you look at Thoroughfare is a story of people coming together, which again is the story of America, working together. People, trying to strive to get better, trying to do the best they can for their children. So, I want to say that because of how much Thoroughfare means to me. And what's happening lately at Thoroughfare has really been, in some ways, disheartening. It's also made me angry at times. It takes a lot of prayer, trust me, because there are times when, you may want to say certain things, but I've asked the Lord to take care of things, and I firmly believe that He is. We've had recently, we've had a desecration of one of the cemeteries there that's located in Thoroughfare. It's called the Scott Cemetery. It's located right next to the Broad Run Brewery. The brewery has acquired the land. They have their goings on there, and the Scott property, the Scott Cemetery, was part of that. The cemetery was permitted back in 1996, so it has been there for whatever reason. It's up to the county, but it wasn't on the deed. But regardless of that, the cemetery has basically been bulldozed over. The field stones that were there that designated the graves have all been taken away. So we don't even know exactly where every single grave is, and from our understanding, there could be possibly between 75 to 100 graves that are there. But all that has been wiped away. All the trees are gone, the stones are gone, and everything. It's on that particular road, which is a dirt road, which my grandparents lived on, my aunt, my uncle lived on there. At the end of that particular road, there's also another cemetery, which we call the Potter's Field. That is, again, a functioning cemetery. The way all this came to be was that my aunt passed away earlier this year, and we were going to bury her there at that particular cemetery. So we had somebody go down to clear everything off. As we went down there to clear everything off, we found actually there was a lot more graves at that particular cemetery as well. But my brother was informed that that cemetery belonged to an adjacent piece of land, and that the owners of that particular land told us that if we wanted to bury anybody else there, we were going to have to get permission in order to do it. They also took and blocked the road leading down where the Scott Cemetery is the upper part of the road. Going further down is where the other cemetery is. First, they put a boulder there to block us from even going down the road. And then they put a gate up to block us from going down the road with a sign on it that said it was under surveillance and that you could be prosecuted for going down the road. Again, the reasoning that they said for doing it was to stop anybody from coming in the back way to the brewery, which makes no sense because there is a driveway leading to the brewery. And they told us if we wanted to have a funeral over there, we'd have to get some permission, and then we would have to drive through the brewery, come through the brewery, and then come around to the back of the brewery in order to get over to where the cemetery is. Again, it's totally ridiculous on that. We also have another cemetery that's in the area, which is also under threat of development too, which is, we call it the Allen Fletcher Cemetery. which is all these cemeteries are located probably within less than a mile of each other. That particular cemetery also too, where my grandmother is buried, my great grandparents are buried there. That cemetery has been limited by the person who bought the property, the adjacent property, saying that what he wanted to do first off was limit anybody else going into the cemetery, but also that they were going to put 5 to 6 houses on the land that was adjacent to that. That's up in dispute right now. We don't know exactly how they got the land or anything, but right now that's, we have some people involved with dealing with that. The thing that hurts again is the same thing about, about what's happening with our ancestors, not being able to go visit them, or being told that if we went someplace, we're going to be prosecuted, or if we're going to have a funeral, we have to get somebody else's permission to go on land that has been in our family for hundreds of years. And so, that's kind of where we stand at right now. It's important for us, not just because of those people who died, but it is important to remember them because of what they did. The legacy that they set for their ancestors, for their people to come after them, but also, for our young people too. We want to teach them about our history so that they can have a greater appreciation for it, and also to lead them to the future. I always believe that you can't know about where you're going unless you know where you've been. And so, and we're blessed in the fact that our children want to know more about their history. They want to know about what happened in the past. They want to be able to do better for themselves also in the future, and to keep that legacy going on. So, again, when we go down through there, it's like you're standing walking in the footsteps of giants. Those people who went through so much, who didn't have a whole lot. Those people that were enslaved, they weren't remembered when they were alive. They were buried, with just field stones. And it's almost like that nobody wants to remember. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people don't want to remember them now that they're dead. It's just, it feels like people just want to take that history and just wipe it all away in order to develop whatever else they're going to develop in that area. So that part is, is we have a situation now where we have to get some legal advice and get some lawyers involved with this thing. We're actually having a meeting again tomorrow, 2 o'clock at the church. We're having some Native American groups that are going to be joining with us. We also have invited some members from the county board. I think the archaeologist, I think Justin is going to be there. I'm not sure who else. We've invited Supervisor Canlin also too, but I'm not sure if he's responded yet or not. I'm not sure who else will be there. And also members from the community, because they want to know what's going on. We all want to know what's going on and what's the plan for the future. We're hearing different things about what they want to do for the future, as far as maybe creating some preservation of designating these areas. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, because nothing's really in stone. But right now, our biggest concern is no further development until we find out exactly where every single grave is, to make sure that those areas are designated and that they're cordoned off so that no one else, can do any development, and that those people are respected. So that's kind of where we are right now. I'm sorry if I go on. I'm a Baptist preacher, so sometimes we have a tendency to linger and go. So, but that's kind of about where we are right now.
Thank you very much for sharing. And maybe we're going to want to revisit this subject with another program in the future, and certainly make info available online.
Yeah. There's something I want to show you though, real quick. Okay?
We can send out links to your webpage and others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I show you something real quick? I'm going to show you something. This is a picture. I don't know if you can see it.
On your screen?
Yeah, I just have a picture in my hand.
Ah.
Can you see that? This is a picture of the school that was in
There
Thoroughfare.
you go.
Okay. And these are the children that were there along with the school teachers. These people built their own school. They had a one room, and then they built a two-story house to where they could house all the kids. But these are kids from all different ages. That Thoroughfare was a place where not only the kids in Thoroughfare came to school, but also from the surrounding area too. So, again, a very strong legacy of being in Prince William County, of being in Virginia, of being in the United States. So that's what I have there. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer whatever I can.
Hey, Kim, if,
But we will follow up, and thank you very much, Delaney. Yeah, Kim,
yeah, I just wanted to
you're on.
say, from the Historic Commission standpoint, Delaney came at our last meeting and talked to us for a long time. His preaching came out during our meeting, certainly. But he also talked to the supervisors at their meeting. And I can say that I have never seen the supervisors so responsive to what this is and what needs to take place. And because of it, the supervisors have approved, I think, $175,000 to be added to the historical efforts of the county, all because of what's happened in Thoroughfare and the as well as the data center issue. They all came together as this whole thing happened. Yep.
That's true. I was there.
Yep.
Elena.
I think Martin had his hand up too.
Okay, Martin, while Elena's unmuting.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of say that I really appreciate this from both Mr. Washington and Joyce. And I just wanted to add that, you know, doing some of these historical articles, and this has been my joy in retirement to get more into the history of Prince William County. And, you know, there's a number of settlements in Prince William County, the Chin family settlement, the Barnes family in Independent Hill, and the Batestown area and Independent, farther down in the park, Prince William Forest Park area, and of course Thoroughfare and in the settlement. These are all areas where former slaves came to Prince William County and settled and prospered after the Civil War and bought land in the Barnes case. And I think in the Chin family too, if I'm not mistaken, they actually bought land that they were enslaved on formerly. And in spite of Jim Crow and in spite of, you know, heavy, there was a lot of racism, a lot of problems in Prince William County and across Virginia and across the South, of course, after the Civil War, but they still persevered and prospered. And I'd like to see us kind of connect the dots on all these areas and put all this history together, because this is something we really haven't done enough work on. And I think it's evident in what Mr. Washington was talking about, what Joyce was talking about. And certainly in Chintown, there's still folks around in that area, in Lake Ridge area, that remember the days of Chintown, the Chin family who settled there. There's still some folks left that remember the Barnes era. So we need to get these oral histories down. We need to do this right away to get this history all across Prince William County. And I don't want to waste a lot more time, but I really appreciate this whole.
Well, no, but thank you.
Go ahead.
Can I share
This whole opportunity for a conversation? Yeah, if we do real quick, because I want to get through Mike, and actually what we might want to do is let Mike give his 2 cents or his presentation and then return back to this. Or were you going to have something really quick, Joyce?
Oh, I just wanted to say that the county is taking this pretty serious, and they've committed funding in addition to the 175. There's quite there's a large number of funds. We're trying to figure out what the funds are going towards, but it looks like they are taking this pretty serious. The concern is to stop the developers and the development that's going on over there in Thoroughfare, and that's proven to be pretty tough to do because these people are not playing fair. Let's put it that way.
That's right. Thank you. And I think afterwards we will circle around and come back to this issue for those who want to talk about it some more, because it's really interesting. But in the meantime, let's hear from Mike May, who spent 9 years as the Occoquan District Supervisor. And I was honored to serve as his planning commissioner, and must say that I have the greatest respect for Mike and learned so much from him. It was a really wonderful experience. During Mike's time on the board, he fought to protect our local environment by preserving open space and supporting the Rural Crescent. Mike also served our community as a member of the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. Currently, he's a managing partner of May Law, a general practice law firm he runs with his wife, Amelia, who is also a lawyer. And the Mays live in Lake Ridge with their 3 astonishing young children. And I see one has come to help her dad with his presentation. Hey there, nice to see you. Mike.
Well, thank you. This has been a really interesting presentation to watch. And when Kim asked me to come and speak to everybody, I thought about the theme of places worth protecting, and the question that we all ask ourselves, and it's a rhetorical question, is why do we choose to live here? And I think the answer is in the presentations that we've seen tonight. It is the fact that Prince William County really has it all. We have the convenience of urban amenities in certain areas. We have housing choices. If you want to live in higher density, you can live in higher density, but you also have the semi-rural area. You have the rural area, and then you've got these cultural and historical areas, as I've been learning about in terms of thoroughfare and the settlement, and there's just so many places like that throughout the county. And certainly the challenge for policymakers, it was a challenge when I was on the board. It was a challenge, I know, when Ruth was on the board, and it remains a challenge for the board, is how do we, as we continue to grow, as we continue to have these pressures for development and more population coming in, how do we preserve and protect the very essence of what makes us want to live here in the first place? And that's where I think groups like this, and certainly the Conservation Alliance, but also citizen activists, can make such a huge difference. And I'm just really interested to hear about all the work that's going on throughout the county and the progress that continues to be made. But it's a constant struggle, and it needs constant support and monitoring and activism from our community if we're going to continue to be successful. And it's going to take partnerships. We've heard some stories maybe about developers not playing ball, not playing fair, and that unfortunately is often the case. But there are some good stories that happen from time to time. And one of the things that I want to do is tell you a story of a partnership that we were able to put together in the Occoquan district during my tenure. And it was a project we call Vantage Point. I'm going to share the screen here, and I'm not the most tech savvy guy, so hopefully I won't screw this up, but let me see here. Okay, we're going to share the screen. Okay, thanks, Marina. Marina's whispering to me how to do this. Pick the one you want to do, Dad. Let's see here. Can everybody see that? Yep. Okay. So this is the Vantage Point site. This is the eastern end of the Occoquan district. You see the town of Occoquan right over here, which is a local cultural resource to those of us in eastern Prince William County. Very, very old and historic place. But all throughout eastern Prince William County, you see it is developed. It's not a city, but it's certainly kind of a higher density suburban area. And really, this is the kind of the Old Bridge Road area. The only remaining areas that haven't been developed are just a couple of parcels right here, right? This is Tanyard Hill Road, and you can take that right down to the town of Occoquan. And so this is the Vantage Point site. And so what happened was at some point prior to my being on the Board of County Supervisors, the area had been rezoned to a very, very potentially high intensity use. And we knew that was going to be a problem, and we were approached by someone who had purchased the property with a new concept for us to partner with. The issues with what we call the by right development, or the development that had been approved, were the fit with the surrounding neighborhood, and I'll show you a slide in a minute, fit with the surrounding neighborhood traffic, because there was a high level of commercial that was going to go there. And if you've ever been on the Old Bridge Road in the morning for the commute, the idea of packing a bunch of additional commercial development in here would have been difficult. We would have seen the loss of a lot of these mature forests through here. And of course, as I said, we have this unique cultural resource in the town of Occoquan that has major stormwater issues. Anytime it rains, heavily. You see the stormwater coming down through Ballywhack Creek and other areas, causing major flooding in the town. And so we had these problems that we had to address, and we sought to establish a partnership with the many stakeholders involved in this. The town of Occoquan, obviously, from the stormwater, all of the immediate neighbors to get their input. We worked very closely with some of the groups that you've heard from today in terms of LOCA, PELT, MIDCO, the Occoquan District Land Use Advisory Committee at the time. The developer, Kettler, was great to work with. The County Parks Department and the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust to establish a conservation easement. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So this was a long process, a lot of community input, a lot of stakeholder input, a lot of meetings with the community to try to develop consensus. And that's really the way that when I was on the board, I really tried to do that, to establish consensus among the community when it came to issues where we could find partnerships and common ground. So if I'll go to this next slide, this is, so that's a close-up of the site. This is Tanyard Hill right here. So you can see commercial in here. This is Old Ridge Road right here. So a lot, you can imagine people trying to get in and out of there for significant commercial and significant residential encroaching into the site. All this area is heavily forested with mature trees. So that was what could have happened without any input of the Board of County Supervisor community whatsoever. But working with the developer, this was the new proposal. And as you can see, a much less intense use. Now there is some residential up here towards the front and a limited amount of commercial right here. But you can see the area of green space they were able to preserve. And so if you go to this last slide, you can see kind of the difference in intensity between what was ultimately approved and what would have been and by right. Now, this did a lot of things. Over 60% of the site was preserved, mature trees, less traffic. Now, when it came to this particular site right here, we worked with the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust to establish a conservation easement. And that's really important because I can't remember who it was. It might've been Kim saying, you know, when you fight to protect something, you usually have to fight to protect it over and over again. And in the case of a conservation easement, you have the benefit of truly maintaining this area in perpetuity. There was some discussion at the beginning of the project of, well, maybe we can make this, maybe the county can be the holder of the easement. But of course, it never makes sense for the government to hold an easement against itself because then there's no one there to enforce it. So what you do is you get this third party, Northern Virginia Conservation Trust is a regional partner that will come in and hold these easements. And their job is to make sure that the land remains in trust for the community. It had major impacts to the view shed along Tanyard Hill Road. If you've ever been to this side of the county and you go down Tanyard Hill Road, you're at that, you saw in the first slide, the intense development. As soon as you turn on Tanyard Hill Road, it's like you've gone back in time 100 years or more because it's just completely wooded. It takes you down into the town of Occoquan, which of course is a historic cultural resource. You can imagine had they encroached on this land all the way in there, this is a very thin buffer area and you'd be driving down Tanyard Hill and looking at the backs of residential areas. So preserving all of that, you maintain that view shed. Now this isn't part of the presentation, but across the street, Tanyard Hill, there's a project, the other vacant parcel where they sought to do something called Oaks 3. That's a much longer story that I could present in another presentation, but the happy ending to that story is that the town of Occoquan was able to come in and purchase this side of the property, and they're going to make that a park. So again, you protect this view shed all the way from Tanyard Hill all the way into the town of Occoquan through the partnership here at Vantage Point, the conservation easement, and the partnership with the town and their park on the other side. So this nice preserved green space in perpetuity in the middle of, you know, a truly high density area in Lake Ridge. So again, working together with the community and all the stakeholders, we were able to preserve open space in perpetuity. We were able to significantly lessen the potential stormwater impacts. We also worked with the county parks department to work on our trail access. And I think Martin Jeter had mentioned the goal maybe establishing a trail from the Davis Ford area down into McCourt. Well, right now you can traverse from McCourt all the way down to the town of Occoquan. There's some twists and turns along the way, but there's been partnerships there between the County Parks Department, between LRPRA and their private system, and several other systems along the way. So you can go, and you have paths that can take you from this development all the way down into the town as well. So it was a great partnership among the town of Occoquan, the stakeholder groups, the community, and in this case, the developer, who really did a great job working with us. And thankfully, sometimes you can have a positive end result if you find a developer who's willing to think outside the box and be creative and work with and listen to the community. And we were proud that that happened in this particular case. But none of this would have been possible without the partnerships that we established. And that's why I think partnerships for the future are the way to go as we continue to see these pressures in the future. So I guess I know that this was supposed to end earlier, so I don't want to continue to go on and on. I would just like to, I'll take any questions if anybody has, but I'd also like to just thank the Conservation Alliance for allowing me to be a part of this and allowing Marina to be a part of it. We love being involved in these programs. We love supporting the Conservation Alliance when we can, because they do so much for Prince William County. Without them, without advocacy groups making a difference and reminding the community how important it is to preserve areas like this, we have a real risk of losing the things that make this area special. But if we all work together and we all continue to focus on the positives of Prince William County, I think the future looks very bright indeed. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. If not, I can pass the presentation over to Eileen Thrall, who I think is going to wrap us up. So any questions?
Yeah, actually, I think that we can circle back for people who want to stay. So does anyone have any questions for Mike and comments? I mean, this is a great natural area, and I don't think he specifically mentioned, it also redirects the stormwater away from the town of Occoquan into the Old Bridge system.
Yep.
Yes, and we proffered a connection to the cemetery there as well. We had a little connection and parking area to the historic Mount Olive Cemetery. And that was a very thoughtful addition in the rezoning.
Is there any other questions? Okay.
Now we're all going to have to take a walk.
Yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to stop my share, and I am going to turn the microphone over to Eileen Thrall, who's going to, I think, make some additional comments. And then I think there was some continued discussion that folks were interested in about some of these cultural resource issues. So we can continue with that.
What I was saying is we want to thank each of the presenters here tonight for a wonderful program and for sharing all of their information. And we want to thank each person that joined us here tonight as well. We're very grateful for your continued support of the Prince William Conservation Alliance. We need your support. And as hopefully we come out of the pandemic, finally, we invite you to set aside, I believe it's the first Saturday in October, for an in-person garden party. And we hope that you all will receive invitations and that you will join us at that time.